I will record and then upload to YouTube. I'm not going to live stream because I found running WebEx at the same time as I live stream, it slows things down. So I will record first and then I'll just upload when the classes are over. So the best way to reach me is email. My office phone is obviously not going to work this semester because I'm not in the office. I'm working from my home office. In terms of office hours, I've got 4 hours a week, so Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 till 12. And I've got used the Calendly online booking system that I know Ross and Jared are using. Probably a lot of you are familiar with it. So if you need an appointment, you just use the link that's also on Blackboard and book a 15-minute slot. This is a good system because Calendly will email me and it will also put it in both of our Outlook calendars. So I know who's coming and when. I prefer that to just leaving the hours open because that way sometimes when it's busy, I have a whole pile of students waiting and then you can be waiting around for a long time. So this kind of avoids you having to wait. The only other thing I ask is a couple other things. Just book one appointment at a time. Like if you're working on a project, you can't book up an hour. You can't book up 4 slots. You can book up 1 slot. And if you book an appointment and you don't need it, please cancel it. Because again, Calendly will email me and it will open that spot back up on my calendar. So I know not to expect you and another student could then book at that time. Yeah. Okay, Hayden, that's fine. You get the first one free and then you have to pay for the other 7. So here's what you can expect from me. Okay, so I will come prepared. So I've taught this class a couple times over the last few years. I have a plan of what we want to do. Yeah, and I don't mind if you turn your cameras off now. That's totally fine. At least it gave me a chance to see some faces, which is great. So I'll be prepared. Come prepared for class. I will encourage you to ask questions. I've been teaching Android for a while. I am not an Android expert. Um, so you're going to ask me things that I don't know. When that happens, I will tell you I don't know. But feel free to ask questions. Jump in at any point in the lesson, either through the chat or by turning your microphone on and asking a question. Pete, great question. I'll come to the assignments in just a minute. I'll also encourage you to answer each other's questions. So if you want to answer someone else's question, either audibly with your mic or in the chat, by all means. And also, if you see I'm showing something and you have a better way of doing it or an alternate way, by all means, put that idea forward. Students many times have better solutions, more efficient ways of doing things that either I hadn't thought of or better ways. So I'm totally open to that. And, I would encourage you to share those ideas with your classmates so that we can all learn. That also helps me make my lessons better when students are putting forward suggestions and ideas. Okay. I'll try to keep the course interesting for you, and I'll be really clear about how your assignments are graded. That everything will have a very clear rubric, so there's no guesswork when it comes to your marks. I'm really open to your suggestions and feedback. I've done a little online teaching before, but this is my first semester of fully online. So it is a bit of a learning process, and we may need to make a few adjustments in the plan as we go. So if things are not working for you, then please let me know so that if I need to make some adjustments to the course, I can do that. In terms of my communication policy, I've kind of bolded it just so it's clear. Typically Monday to Friday, you can expect an email response within 24 hours. If you email me over the weekend, so that's, Friday night and then into the weekend, you may not get a response till Monday. I try not to live on my phone. So usually in the evenings and on weekends, I try to get away from my technology because I'm on the computer pretty much all week. So if you are looking for more of an immediate response, you're best to try to email me during the weekday. But generally 24 hours is the expectation I'm setting out. Okay. So that's what you can expect from me. In order to succeed in the class, you need to basically follow the course lessons. So if you're able to attend the Friday sessions, great. I think you'll learn the most and you'll be able to, ask questions and get immediate answers. It's not feasible for everybody. Some people either have times, they're in a different time zone, they have family or other work commitments, or they just prefer to do this at their own pace. That's fine. The weekly lessons will be on YouTube. I've created a playlist for the channel and I'll show you the link to that. But what I would expect is if you're going to be doing the work on your own time, you need to have the work finished by the following Thursday. So before the next class. If ever anything's due, it's going to be due the following week on Thursday. Okay? Make sure you start your assignments early so that you have time to get help, book an office hours appointment, or email me if you need to. Okay. Also, to make sure you earn your credit, you need to do all your own work and do all the assignments and submit them on time. That's just so that you earn the most marks possible. Okay. Please be plugged into Blackboard in your student email. This is the only way I really have to communicate with you, especially now that we don't have in-class sessions. So anything I make available to you, it'll be through Blackboard and or email. Do all your assignments, right? Every assignment is a chance to earn marks. Even if you don't have a lot of time or you're not sure, submitting an assignment for part marks is better than not doing an assignment at all and getting a 0. When you email me, if you can put the description in the subject line, that'll help me know what your email is about and also helps me kind of triage and prioritize. If you just send me an email with no subject, an email that has a descriptive subject that I know I can answer right away, I'm probably going to get to that message first. So try and put a descriptive subject. Now, there was one item on here that I should have added. It's going to be much easier for you to learn this semester online in all your classes, not just mine, if you have 2 monitors. So I'm going to strongly recommend somehow you get a second display, or if you don't have one, whatever you have to do to use one, buy a used one on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, use your television. And the reason that you really need 2 screens, I think, to work effectively is on one screen, you're probably going to be watching the lessons and seeing my screen share and my code editor, but then you need a separate screen for your own code editor and your own device emulator. And laptop screens are not that large. So it can be kind of tricky to be following along what I'm doing in real time. In the classroom, you've got the overhead to look at me, to my work, and you've got your own screen for your own work. So if you don't have 2 screens, I really think, you've got all of this semester, and you probably got, chances are in the winter semester, I'd say chances are good, we're still going to be doing full online learning. Not that I know for sure, but it's going to make your life much easier if you have a second display. Yep, that's great. Probably a lot of you have. Well, Andrew, you're a talented multitasker. I cannot multitask at all. You could have the, it just makes it, I'm agreeing with all the, yeah, if you need a 6th one. Or, the other option, I know, that's another good point, Andrew. I've talked about this in my other classes, and a few students said, well, I just bought one really large ultra-wide monitor because it's big enough to put multiple windows on there at a decent size. So I think it's not only going to help you in this class, it's really going to help you with the rest of your time, particularly, as I said, if online learning carries into the next semester, it's probably a worthwhile investment. It doesn't have to be a good quality second monitor. My second monitor is a really old, kind of crappy monitor, but at least it allows me, for example, I have my lesson plan and our WebEx chat on my second monitor, and I'll have, my code editor on my primary monitor that I'm sharing with you guys. So if you don't have a second monitor, do whatever you can to do that, because it's really going to make this whole online learning experience a lot easier for you. Okay, RP, I'm going to come to your questions. First, I just want to talk about the grades. So here's how things break down. Okay. Yep, that's a Andrew. I would do the same. I have two monitors, but unfortunately, my laptop only supports I don't have enough ports, so I can only run two monitors. I would run three if I could. Yeah, docking station's a great idea. So one thing you will notice that is missing from the that's a good solution too, Hayden. Thank you. One thing you'll notice is missing from the evaluation is the midterm exam. I got rid of it. I assume there's no huge objections to us not having a midterm exam. So I decided to do this for a couple of reasons. Online testing can be challenging. Our semester is also 1 week shorter this semester. So I thought rather than lose a lesson where we could be learning new stuff, I would rather get rid of the midterm exam. So here's the way your mark breaks down. You're going to build one project over the semester. It's called assignment 1, 2, and 3, but it's really 3 parts of the same project. So basically, you are going to plan, design, and deploy an app to the an Android app to the Google Play Store. Okay? So the 5% is basically your plan. What is your app going to be? And then the second part will be sort of having a prototype, like with certain features working. And then the assignment 3 will be the fully deployed, finished product. And I would hope to do that before the end of the semester so that we also have some time before the final exam where you can maybe get to see each other's and explore each other's apps and see what other people have built. Yes, thank you, Kartik. I am recording right now. Thank you. And that's you can remind me of that regularly because occasionally I will forget to record. Okay, so that's 45% of your grade is basically building your app. Now, instead of having the midterm exam, what we're going to do, like we did in if you've been in my class before in the PHP or ASP.NET classes, we're going to have weekly quizzes. Now, normally I would do those in class because we're online. Those are done at home, done outside of class. And I've upped the grade for those quizzes from 10 to 20%. And again, this partly is replacing the midterm mark. So we'll have a quiz basically every week. And so, for example, the quiz on the week 1 quiz will be available after class today. You have until next Thursday at 5 o'clock to do it. So the quiz will be on Blackboard in the week 2 folder. There's a pool of multiple choice questions based on today's lesson, and each student will get 5 of those multiple choice questions at random. So basically, yes, it is timed. It's 15 minutes to answer 5 multiple choice questions. Okay, so it will automatically submit after 15 minutes. So you have a week to do it. And each quiz, so basically we'll have these quizzes pretty much every week, except for so each quiz is worth roughly 2% of your overall grade. Okay, so it's fairly easy marks. So the quiz will open today at 2 p.m. It'll be available until next Thursday at 5 p.m. I'd actually suggest though you do it sometime next week because the idea is, we're a full week between classes. So it's giving you a chance to kind of refresh your knowledge on this class before next week. So I would probably do it sometime next week, a few days maybe before Friday. That way you're at least thinking about Android every few days as opposed to once every 7 days. Okay? And once it hits 5 o'clock on Thursday, the quiz is closed, so you won't be able to submit it after that. That 2% will be gone. Okay. They're not designed to be tricks. They're designed to help you kind of refresh your knowledge, and you will get your score immediately as well as feedback on every question explaining the right answer. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll also have 10% of your grade is going to come from kind of in-class activities. No, Lalit, good question. The quiz is multiple. It's not multiple attempt, but because really they're open book quizzes, right? You have access to check the resources on Blackboard, check your lesson notes as you do the quiz. Fair question. So that 10% for labs and class exercises, these are basically just for participating in class activities. So, we're going to do our first class activity today. So it's basically just going to be like a shared whiteboard. And all I'm going to ask you to do at the end of class is add a sticky note with some thoughts and your name on it. So this is kind of a way again for me to try and create the feeling like we're in a classroom and we're doing some activities together. So I'll have a variety of these little activities through the semester. It might be contributing to a whiteboard. It could be a discussion board posting. It could be, filming a 30-second Flipgrid video. So it won't be a coding activity really. It'll more just be making sure you're following along and contributing to the class. So we'll probably do these. We won't necessarily do them every week. Maybe every couple of weeks we'll have some small in-class activity, and basically you just get a completion mark. Either you did it, you didn't do it, or you did it but you didn't maybe do it properly or didn't do it very well. So those will just be out of 2 marks each. And again, if you're watching this, if you're not live in line, you don't have to do those things during the WebEx sessions. So if I assign an in-class activity, you have until 5 p.m. on the following Thursday to submit it. So if you can't attend class and I assign an activity like a discussion board, it's fine. You don't have to post in the board before 2 o'clock today. You have basically a full week to participate in that activity. So I'm hoping by having that 30%, we can get rid of the midterm exam. And I'm hoping that kind of increases the sense of collaborative learning, that we are still learning together, even though we're not physically in the classroom. So I have some ideas. There'll be kind of a variety of those activities. We may kind of repeat a few of the activities a few times if they're good, but those will not be big, demanding tasks. So that quiz and class exercise, those are really fairly easy marks. Most of you should get close to that 30%, so long as you're plugged in and participating in those activities each week. And then we'll have a final exam. That'll be a practical exam. So we'll schedule it during the last week of class on the Friday. So it'll be similar type of exam, you're familiar with if you've been in my class before, where I'm just going to give you 3 hours and give you some requirements. It'll be an open book exam, and I'll just ask you to build an app. So, and what I will probably do is have a bunch of different versions of it, and I'll randomize it so, not everybody's going to have the exact same version of the exam. It'll be similar, but, everybody's may be a little bit different. Now, I haven't answered your question because I wanted to wait till I got down here. So everything in this class, all the grades are going to be individual, okay? And we're going to do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, asking you to work on group projects when physically we're not getting together is probably an unreasonable ask. Asking you to be able to collaborate entirely remotely on a large-scale project, that's going to be, as Hayden says, tricky. So that's one reason why, for the major assignment, I'd like everybody to build for assignment 1, 2, and 3, I'd like everybody to build their own app. The second reason why I would like the major project to be done individually is one thing that I've found in the past when I've taught this class, the major project has been a group project. But what I have found is many times students have done really well on the group project because they had one super strong group member. And then when it came to the final exam, I had students that were going into the final exams with 80s and 90s. And then on the practical final exam, it became clear to me that, those students could not perform even the most fundamental basic Android tasks. Yet on the strength of a group member, they had achieved really high mark in the class. So it's not that I'm trying to punish anybody, but I felt that my assessments weren't very accurate in having those major projects be group work. So I think what I really want to see is that everyone in the class at the end of the semester knows how to build their own app. If they're given 4 months to do it, that you can build and deploy to the Google Play Store your own app that you did all by yourself. Pete, does that make sense? Does that answer your questions? Okay. I hope that people can understand that reasoning and that rationale, and that you're okay with it. The other thing that I've set up, and not just in this class, but in all my classes, is everybody is going to have to build something that is different and unique. So you're going to have to build. I can't have two apps that are the same. So I've actually set up a little website for all my classes, which we'll maybe look at it next week. But the idea is you pick your class and you will submit your project idea there, and you can see the project ideas of everyone else in the class. You can't see anyone's name, but before you submit your idea, you can check if your idea is the same as somebody else's project that I've already approved. So this will help ensure that everyone is doing their own project. And then through the website, I can approve or ask you to submit a different project, and you'll get an email notification when that happens. And I get notified every time a student submits a new project for me to review. So maybe something to start thinking about is, what kind of app might you like to build? But we'll talk more about that next week. So in terms of the assignment, I do want to go over the other rules around here because they are really important. So everything that's in this class, the due dates will always be Thursday at 5 p.m. Okay, so that's for the quizzes, the in-class learning activities, as well as assignments 1, 2, and 3. Always Thursday at 5 o'clock. So the idea is you're not working late at night or all night long Thursday, and then you're sleeping all day Friday and missing class. So when you submit the work and then come to class, go to sleep and come to class for 11 o'clock prepared. If you submit late, submissions are deducted 20% per day. Okay, and that's just, most of you have had some co-op experiences. You probably have all experienced that, we have deliverables and deadlines when we're working in information technology. So I try to prepare you for that. I'm not an unreasonable person. If you have a valid reason why you need more time, then please email me. If you're sick, if you're dealing with some kind of emergency, please email me, and we can work out some accommodation, so long as you have good reason to ask for more time. Okay. I do need to highlight this. I've had to add this semester because this has become a common issue in our department. There are no makeup assignments in the course. Okay. So at the end of the semester, if your grade is not where you want it to be, I don't have extra assignments, or you can't go back and do old assignments that you didn't submit, because that creates a fairness issue. So I get these requests at the end of every semester, usually from students who didn't quite pass, but they didn't submit all the work, and then they want to go back and submit old labs or old quizzes that were due, early in the semester. And I have a blanket answer to that, and that the answer to that is no. That's not fair to the students who did those assignments on time. If someone can choose not to do them and then be granted permission to submit that work weeks or months later. Okay, so there's lots of opportunities to earn grades, right? With these 3 projects, we're going to have about 10 or 12 of these quizzes, probably 5 or 6 of these class exercises. So you have lots and lots of opportunities to earn grades. As long as you submit those assignments, you should be fine. Okay, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not even going to send you a response saying no if you ask, can you submit work at the end of the term to increase your grade? The answer is just no. In terms of your individual work, I take this really seriously. I show this every semester. This has been a huge problem in our department. So these are the number of academic misconducts just in my classes, semester by semester. And last semester, in fall of 2018. This was unfortunately, the second worst semester I've had. I had 12 students go through the academic misconduct process. 4 of those students, it was their 3rd misconduct, and they'd been suspended from the school for a year. They got a 0 in the course. It was a group project, and 2 groups worked together. Very clearly copied work. So there's 0 tolerance for this. So your minimum penalty is a grade of 0. And I want to draw your attention. Many of you completed it, but there is an item on Blackboard that you'll need to complete before you can access the week 1 folder. And that's under assignments. It's this academic integrity policy. I know a lot of you have completed it. So I'm just laying out really clearly because I don't want there to be any kind of misunderstanding around what the rules are and what you're allowed and not allowed to do. So if you've completed this already, and a lot of you have, thank you. If you haven't completed it yet, if you can please have a look at that as soon as we take a break, which will be shortly. Read through the conditions. If you disagree, then please set up an email me and set up a meeting so we can talk about your concerns. But until you agree to the policy, you can't see the week 1 folder on Blackboard. Okay. And I've put a few other conditions in here. Some of these are kind of general college rules, but I want to highlight a couple things in here that are sort of my own rules. Okay. So it says, unless specified by me, everything is entirely your own work. I will post our in-class work every week on GitHub. That work is there for you to use as a reference. You can't download my project, change the wording in it and the code, and submit it back as your own assignments. I will know my own work. So it's there as a reference. It's not there to be copied and submitted back to me as your own. Now, very commonly, we find code online in our project. You know, you want to implement a feature in your project that we haven't learned in class. So you find a tutorial, you watch a YouTube video. Can you use that code? Yes, you can, but with a few conditions. Number 1, third-party code shouldn't be more than 10% of your project. So you can't find a tutorial and follow the entire tutorial and give me word for word the source code from the tutorial. That's not okay. Number 2, if you're using some third-party code, make sure you make a comment, make a citation as to where that code came from. And lastly, please check with me. So if you find code you want to use in your assignment, I ask that you send me a link to the code, send me a link to the page where you found it, explain how you're going to use it, and just get me to approve it. Okay, so if there's any doubt, if you're not sure, can I use this, yes or no, all I'm asking is just check with me. And as long as you show me where the code came from and how you're planning on using it, I'm going to say yes. Okay, but that will remove any of this misunderstanding of, well, I just followed this code online and I thought it was okay. It is okay so long as you check with me. Okay. A couple of other things that have come up around this, particularly from last semester. You're responsible to protect your own work. So I had issues last semester with students publishing source code to GitHub to public repositories, and then other students submitting the exact same code. Okay. You are responsible to protect your code. You can't share it with classmates. And that means when you publish it to GitHub, it has to be private. Okay. If you're going to help a classmate, you can help them, but look at their code and walk them through it. Don't share your own code. Okay. The last thing is that we've started to do, if your work looks like it wasn't your own or the same as someone else's, we're going to have a code review meeting. And for a code review meeting, you do need a microphone and a webcam, and you have to have those on at all times, even if that means you have to use a friend's computer. And in a code review meeting, I'm going to ask you to open up your project and walk me through it and answer questions that demonstrate that you understand the work that's in there and that clearly the work is yours. Okay. We had issues this summer with instructors doing code reviews where every time a student was asked a question, they turned off their camera and microphone and turned them back on a minute later because clearly they were asking someone to help them answer the questions. So that's not permitted if we have a code review. It's got to be really clear that you understand the work you've submitted. So I hope those rules are clear. I would love for this semester for this to be a zero academic misconduct semester. I would really love it, especially after wasting time processing 12 of them in the winter semester. Does anybody have any questions or concerns around those rules? Anything you want to talk about? Yeah, Andrew, I completely agree. Right, Michael. So yes, you can. Yeah. So yes, Nadia, some of the code will be the same. Like a few things in class, like how we log into a database, that code's going to be the same. Yes, and absolutely. Stack Overflow is totally fine. So if you find something on Stack Overflow um, that we don't do in class, Michael, but that it helps you, yeah, just put a link to it and just put a comment. Source Stack Overflow, so that I know where you got it from and I can check it. Yes, Kartik, thanks. I will come to tools and resources. I'm going to look at Blackboard next. Yes, thanks for mentioning that. Nadia, did I answer your question? Okay. Okay, great. So in terms of our schedule, we should be able to stay with this fairly well. If a few things take a little longer and we don't quite cover everything, that's okay. What I also may do on the December 11th class, what we may opt to do rather than doing a networking is that's when your final assignments are due before the second last class. We may just make that last class as kind of a show and tell where you get to everybody kind of gets to do a quick demo, or maybe we do it in small groups because there are a lot of us, where you get to see and review at least some of your classmates' Android apps. So I'm thinking we may do that instead for our final class. Okay. So I'm going to give out assignment 1 next week. Misam, here's my concern with midnights. I used to hang on, Michael. I'll come back to that question. I used to make my assignments due at midnights, but what wound up happening was usually starting around 9:30 p.m. I started getting an absolute flood of emails. So I moved the deadlines for all my classes to 5 p.m. so that I was more available to answer last minute questions. The other thing is this semester Thursday nights I have a grad class, so again I'm not available in the evenings Thursday nights. So I've made it 5 p.m. for all my courses. So I would kind of prefer that. I think it works better in terms of being able to provide like a last minute support if someone's, for example, having trouble uploading or something like that. Thanks for your understanding. No, Michael, I believe the 18th is the final week because normally it's 14 weeks plus reading week. It's actually 15 calendar weeks normally. But this semester it's 14 calendar weeks, and we also started later than we usually would start. Sensors. No, no, Tim, you don't have to have an Android phone. Android Studio comes with a built-in emulator, and the emulator, yeah, that's fine. You don't need an actual physical device. And in fact, I'm not going to use my physical device for this. I'm just going to use the emulator because also the emulator will show up on my screen share so everybody can see it. If I was going to run the apps on my device, I'd need a camera on my phone, which would be tricky to show. So yeah, Mark and Tim, no problem. Some people do prefer, every time I teach this class, some people prefer to just hook up their phone with USB and run their apps on the actual device because they find it's faster than the emulator, especially if you don't have a lot of RAM. Android Studio and the emulator is kind of a pig. So yeah, some people always prefer to use an actual Android device, but by no means is it required. Yeah, so it's a matter of preference. It is heavy for sure, Kivel. So if you have an Android phone, absolutely, you can plug it in and you can run it, run things directly on your physical device if you want, but it's absolutely not required. Yes, Andrew, I can't stand Xcode. Okay, so I will give out assignment 1 next week, which is basically asking you to come up with an idea for your app and submit a proposal for the app, and it'll be due in week 3. You don't really have to write code. I'll probably just ask you to submit a proposal and set up a project, but there doesn't really have to be any working code in that project. So I'll give that out next week. Most of this stuff doesn't really apply because this is just rules around being on campus. The only thing I will point out, yeah, I think so. I agree. If you need to be on campus at all for any reason, you do need to download the Safe at Georgian app, and you have to submit a daily COVID assessment for any day. Yeah, I hated Xcode too. For any day you go into campus, you have to have a COVID assessment completed if you're on the campus for any reason. Are there any questions about anything in the plan in our syllabus? We will take a break shortly. Jamin, the only thing is yes, there is. There's an app called, I think it's called the ADB, the Android. Thanks for the confirmation, Nadia. there, hang on just a sec, because the name of it is escaping me. There is an Android utility, the Android Debug Bridge. So you basically, I think you need to plug your phone in with the USB and then register it. And your phone, I think it'll ask for permission. We'll look at it. I'll maybe go through this later in class. So the SDK you should have, yeah, and you need to enable USB debugging. You know what? I'll actually just throw this link in the chat. So this is how you configure your phone. Yes, you do need to use the Android device bridge, and that will allow Android Studio to deploy your development app to your device every time you click run. No, you won't be able to deploy for iPhone. I believe that's through the settings, Andrew. I'm just going to look at my device. Yeah, it's when I go into settings, yeah, you can tap on the build version 5 times, and then it does add developer options as one of the options on the bottom of the settings screen. And so I've got the last 3 menu options under settings are software update, about phone, and then developer options comes in there. And you also need to follow like this article here to enable the USB debugging. And if you run ADB devices, right, this was the command I was thinking of. Once you do this, if in the command prompt under Android SDK platform tools, if you run ADB devices, it'll show you when your phone is connected. This should show you your phone. If your phone doesn't show up here, then Android doesn't recognize it yet. So this article on How to Geek that I posted, the link I posted in the chat, it pretty much explains how this works. Okay, so it's It's 11:55, so why don't we take a 10-minute break here? I'm going to stop the recording. When we come back, Kartik, I'm going to address your question first. I do want to look at what's on Blackboard. So we'll look at tools and resources, and then we'll kind of dive into Android. We'll talk about it at a high level, and then we'll actually open Android Studio and just play around with it, just get our feet wet a little bit before we go for today. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break here. I'm going to step away for a few minutes.